Modern physics is built on equations that require manual adjustment. Even our most successful theories of the universe rely on dozens of arbitrary numbers that must be measured by hand and plugged into the math before it works. This tuning happens because we treat numbers as abstract, malleable placeholders. If an equation doesn't match the real world, we turn the dial, changing the strength of gravity or the mass of an electron until the theory lines up with the data. The Marithmetics architecture treats numbers as rigid, pre-existing structural sets. In this view, arithmetic has its own internal geometry that humans cannot edit or invent. If numbers are fixed physical structures, then the settings of our universe are mathematically inevitable. They are the only values that can emerge from a system with no dials to turn. This new physics is built on a specific mathematical object discovered in 2023. Digital root power tables, or DRPTs. A DRPT maps how numbers behave when multiplied repeatedly within the confines of a specific base system. This reveals a finite residue geometry, a landscape where numbers lock into fixed loops or collapse into isolated attractors based on the rules of modular arithmetic. These patterns are the immutable raw material of arithmetic. They were already there, hidden in the logic of the number line, long before anyone built a telescope or a particle accelerator. This framework is a conservative extension of standard ZFC set theory. It doesn't ask for a new leap of faith. It simply uses the existing, undeniable rules of mathematics in a more structured way. DRPTs provide a rigid floor for physics. Because the geometry of the table is determined by the modulus of the base, there is no room for a scientist to introduce a hidden variable or a human guess. The challenge is connecting this finite, jagged bedrock of integers to the smooth, continuous physics we see in the real world. That bridge is the deterministic operator calculus, or DOC. It is a mathematical language that translates finite ring arithmetic into continuous limits. The DOC uses admissibility rules to prevent errors. Lawful operators, like Fourier kernels, use averaging that keeps data smooth. Illegal operators, like sharp cutoffs, cause chaotic spikes. If a theory relies on an illegal approximation, the system shatters. It refuses the calculation entirely. This ensures the continuous world remains tethered to the finite bedrock. It removes the tuning dials by forcing the continuum to obey the rules of the grid. Instead of measuring constants in a lab, the DOC architecture scans the prime number line and filters it through modular residue laws. These geometric constraints act as a sieve. Primes that don't align with the required symmetry are eliminated, narrowing the field of possibilities down to a single outcome. This process deterministically isolates one unique prime triple, 137, 107, and 103. This triple is the mathematically inevitable survivor of the system's own rules. It is a discovered seed, not a selected one. Every physical parameter that follows must be a direct consequence of these three specific integers. We can see this in Demo 36, the Big Bang Master Flagship. This run pushes the 137, 107, 103 triple through the operator calculus to see what kind of universe it builds. The triple defines the exact budget or resolution of the operators. The cosmological parameters, like the spectral tilt and cosmic amplitude, emerge as the explicitly quantified residuals of these operators. In other words, the constants of the Big Bang are the measurable echoes left over when the integers are mapped into the continuum. This scale emerges directly from the arithmetic. The spectral tilt of the early universe is no longer a value we have to measure and plug back into the theory. It is a structural necessity of the calculus itself. The macroscopic structure of the Big Bang is the direct projection of these finite arithmetic constraints, requiring zero observational data to settle its values. Proving this is actual structure, rather than a lucky coincidence, requires an audit. In a counterfactual audit, we test what happens when we use different numbers. If we shift the input or reduce the mathematical budget even slightly, the entire system reacts. This architecture has teeth. The outputs degrade by fixed, predictable margins. Any input other than the primary triple fails to satisfy the legality gates of the operator calculus. Without the correct mathematical bedrock, the simulated physical reality collapses. The bridge between the integers and the continuum simply fails to hold. The constants of our universe emerge as the inevitable results of the arithmetic's internal limits. We are living in the measurable shadow of a discovered finite substrate, the geometric floor of the numbers themselves.